So Donald Trump has returned from his trip over to the UK. In fact, he's actually been back for about a day and a half at this point. However, I think it's important to remember the fact that during this entire trip, Donald Trump was an absolute embarrassment to us here in the United States for multiple reasons. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we had the picture of him standing in that tuxedo looking like Bugs Bunny about to conduct an opera. Then, of course, we had him lying about all the protesters. And let's not forget the fact that he actually began the trip by maliciously attacking the mayor of London. But all of that, to me, maybe with the exception of the attacks on the London mayor, pale in comparison to what he said to Piers Morgan about climate change. See, here's what happened. Donald Trump apparently had a meeting with Prince Charles. The meeting was supposed to last 15 minutes. Instead, it went on for 90 minutes. And during the meeting, Prince Charles was trying to educate Donald Trump about the dangers of climate change, the threats that it poses to the entire world. And Donald Trump wasn't having any of it. Didn't want to hear it, didn't want to be there, showed the British royal family that he, the leader of the United States, is an absolute moron and doesn't care about the biggest threat to the planet. So he told Piers Morgan, his good buddy, on Good Morning Britain on Wednesday, what happened at the meeting. Here's some quotes. He said, "He is really into climate change, and I think that's great. What he really wants and what he really feels warmly about is the future. He wants to make sure future generations have climate that is good climate as opposed to a disaster. And I agree." Okay, so you're sitting here saying like, man, this guy cares about the future. Wow, he just wants people to have a good environment. And I totally agree with that. And then Donald Trump added this. He said, "I did say, well, the United States right now has among the cleanest climates there are based on all statistics. And it's even getting better because I agree with that we want the best water, the cleanest water. It's crystal clean, has to be crystal clean, clear." Keep in mind, I did not just stumble while reading that. Those were the actual words in the actual order that Donald Trump said them in this interview. But let's get one thing straight. The United States does not have anywhere near the cleanest air or the cleanest water or the cleanest soil for that matter. In fact, our emissions, our pollution since this man has become president are actually going up. You know, fine particulate matter in our atmosphere, in our air, the air that we breathe every day, has gotten worse. 1/3 of Americans are now drinking contaminated tap water on a daily basis. 1/3 of us in this country. 110 million. And that number is going up. More than 2,000 water districts in this country have levels of lead in their water that's actually worse than what was in Flint, Michigan. So no, we do not have the crystal clean, clear water that Donald Trump told Piers Morgan we have. He went on, folks. That's not the end of it. He said, "China, India, Russia, many other nations, they have not very good air, not very good water, and sense of pollution and cleanliness." God, I wish I was making up these quotes, folks. If you go to certain cities, I'm not going name, but I can. You can't even breathe, and now that air is going up. So according to Donald Trump, who's not going to name cities, but he can, the air is so bad you can't breathe and the air goes up, he says. The air goes up. Okay, so this child man seems to understand how greenhouse gases work. And in fact, yes, there are areas of the planet where the air pollution is so bad you are advised not to breathe outside without a mask. That's not untrue. But to say you can't breathe would imply that you walk outside and immediately suffocate. That's not what happens. You just breathe in all these particulates that basically go in your body and destroy it. But nonetheless, this man is absolutely lying through his teeth about climate change. And I haven't even gotten to the biggest lie yet. Here it is. I believe there's a change in weather, and I think it changes both ways. Don't forget, it used to be called global warming. That wasn't working. Then it was called climate change. Now it's actually called extreme weather because with extreme weather, you can't miss. Yes, he's actually technically accurate here because the weather does change both ways. Right now in the United States, it's summertime, so it's hot. That's the weather. In the winter, in some areas of the country, it will get cold and it will snow. So that is another change in the weather, as Donald Trump correctly pointed out. But climate change is not weather change. And that's the big difference. That's what sets Donald Trump apart from the scientists who actually understand what they're talking about. Climate is not weather. Weather is what happens to be happening on any particular day, in any particular moment, on any particular area of the planet. That is weather. Trends over time. What happens to entire ecosystems? That is climate. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to understand the difference. So on his final day of this UK visit that was an embarrassment from the start, Donald Trump gave the most embarrassing interview that we have seen from him thus far in his tenure as president, because he doesn't understand basic science, and that was broadcast for the entire world to see just how dumb our president really is. One of today's video sponsors is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers thousands of videos for users to help learn new skills. Skillshare is absolutely phenomenal if you want to learn how to video edit, if you want to learn how to edit photos, if you want to learn how to cook, learn about nutrition, staying in shape, whatever it is, Skillshare has the videos and knowledge to help you learn this. Now, there's lots of different reasons why this could be helpful. Maybe you just want to do better in your life. Maybe you want to make a career change. Whatever it is, Skillshare has something to offer. And right now, what they're offering is the first 500 users who go to the custom URL below will get 2 whole months of Skillshare absolutely free. Now, I've actually been using Skillshare now for several months, teaching myself a little bit of video editing, trying to get better at that. Photo editing. This is incredibly helpful and useful information that they have available. And again, the first 500 Ring of Fire users to use that custom URL below can get 2 months absolutely free. Just go to skl.sh/ringoffire5. Following that custom URL, which is also in the video description below, first 500, 2 months absolutely free.